wrong one. It's right one. Okay. Pasha, if you could check the sound,
YouTube is on, and so is Facebook.
and the sound is okay.
I don't know.
You don't know. Yeah, please check that. Keyframes are too low. What's happening? What's happening?
No sound.
No sound.
I I think there's no sound on either stream.
There should be sound. At least my streaming software shows the sound. Um, are you sure? Can anyone else tell us if there is any sound? This is that's yeah. No, nothing. Paula, I maybe we need to postpone it, unfortunately. I'm very sorry about that, but it's just I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
It's okay.
No,
I
nothing
understand
is
that
working.
if nothing is working, there's nothing else to do. I understand
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I'm very sorry about it. I'm very sorry about wasting your time, and I really look forward to this talk. And
Me too. It was still nice seeing you again,
Yeah, for me
and
too. But
and hopefully soon.
hopefully soon, and I will be able to. I think I will be able to connect from the workshop, so I can show you
yeah,
around and do a updated workshop
yeah,
tour. And
yeah,
yes, we can still talk about everything we plan to talk about. It's not a problem.
yeah, yeah. I'll try to recover my laptop, and then everything should be fine. I hope so, at least. Again, it was great to see you, and sorry about this technical stuff, but yeah, everybody, sorry about this. We'll have to postpone. There is a comment that there is sound there on
Oh,
Facebook. Uh,
okay. Then we can probably start if there is sound. There's just no sound. Can we? Prob-
my wife also writes that she can see us and hear us.
Okay, then let's pretend nothing happened.
Okay,
Just
so if it's working, we can start.
yeah.
Okay, okay. But there is one more thing I wanted to say to you that I had to, I had to leave you at around 11:20 my time, 11:30, like right now, because I need to put my baby to sleep, and I will be away for 10 minutes or so, and I will come back to you. But Pasha can start the talk. So, Pasha, are you ready to start the talk?
Yeah, that that's a new level of clusterfuck. We've never
Yeah,
had
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
before.
yeah. Okay. Anyway,
So,
so the stream seems to be working. Sorry for the delay. There were technical issues. My main computer for streaming died, and we'll have to figure out that later. Pasha,
listen,
please start, and I'll be back as soon as the baby is sleeping.
Okay.
so, so hi everyone. This is iBookBinding podcast. We've had quite a break. The reason for that being the same reason Stepan has left us for a brief moment. He's had a kid, a wonderful son named Ari, who we all love and who I can't wait to meet. Today, our guest is Paola Fagnola from Milan. Hi, Paola.
Hi.
Uh, I'm Pavel. I'm currently in Belgrade. Stepan is in Windsor, UK. Um, and today we're gonna talk a bit about Paola's background because it's a pretty unusual one in our modern world, then I think we're gonna talk about what Paula does uh, for her work and for her PhD studies, which is also very, very exciting. We've actually talked to Paula a few years back when we were all different people, which is
Totally, yes.
very, very different. Yeah. Uh, could you please tell us a bit about yourself? What you do now and how you came to do it?
Okay. So, I'm Paola Fagnola. I am a book and paper conservator, and I also train in bookbinding. And I am currently a PhD student at Brera Academy of Fine Arts in Milan with a research on the history of bookbinding in the industrial era. And actually, I moved my first steps into bookbinding very early because my father is a bookbinder and a book conservator. So I was quite literally born into this world, and I grew up going around the workshop. And when I was 15, and it was in Italy, it's when you finish middle school and you have to choose high school, and usually high schools are more, they have different profiles, so you can choose a more scientific one, a more artistic one. So it's the first step, the first time you actually choose a little bit what you want to do from then on. And when I was thinking about the future, what do I want to do, what do I want to become. And I realized that I really liked bookbinding and book conservation because there was a little bit of everything in it. There was especially in conservation, there was science, but there was history, there was the artistic part, there was a practical part, and then something more theoretical about thinking and designing and create. And so I said to my father, Dad, I want to do your job. And he said, fine. If you be of the same opinion in 5 years, maybe we can discuss it. And he said 5 years because it's the length of the high school period. So he said, you finish high school, and then when you're ready to start a university, we can discuss it. So that's how I started with bookbinding, and I did some training in the Centro del Bel Libro in Ascona. And then when I was 25 in Italy, the conservation school of the Central Institute in Rome reopened again, the conservation school, which was closed for I think 25 years. And so I applied to be a student of that school. And I was one of the first new students. It was the Central Institute called Patologia del Libro, so the one Central Institute for Conservation specific for book and paper material. And I did my master in book and paper conservation there. And then afterwards, I went back to Torino and started again working in the bindery, family-owned workshop with bookbinding and book conservation departments. And but I always thought that I liked studying, I liked research, and yeah, I mean, it was new to have a university degree for conservation, so there still was not a really a tradition of people doing research for conservation in a not in an academic environment, let's say. So there were more in Italy, more independent conservator, maybe working in public institutes that were doing research, but it was not really a path that was established. But I always thought if there will be one day a PhD opportunity for conservators, maybe it's something I want to try. And then in 2024, the law changed and allowed Fine Arts Academy to do PhD degrees as well as universities. And so Fine Arts Academy decided to do artistic research as well as something a little more adjacent to conservation. So that was my opportunity, and I took it.
Could you go in a bit more detail about both the institution and the program?
Yes.
Because although bookbinding PhD, no, conservation PhD is something new for this place, the academy itself is anything but new. It's as old or even older than Moscow University, which is the oldest university in Russia. I know the oldest university in Italy is way older than that, but still,
Yeah, I mean,
250,
Brera,
250 years is a lot.
exactly. Brera Academy of Fine Arts is celebrating this year 250 years of activity, and it was born for fine arts, so painting, sculpture, decorative arts, and they also opened a conservation school, and so they started with was the same degree that I did at the Central Institute, so a master degree in conservation. And in Italy you do a 5 years program and you have a master, so there's no bachelor for the conservation, it's only a master, and you do 5 year in a row. So it's a master that includes the bachelor part, let's say.
And to get that, did you have to do a practical part and a theoretical part? There was some kind of not thesis, but some, yes, actually
Yeah,
thesis
yeah.
probably,
It's
yeah.
a master thesis at the end, and yes, the 5 year program, it's more or less half on practical work of conservation or on actual cultural heritage. So it's written by law that it's you have to do the practical part must be half of the 5 year program, and this half needs to be 80% on actual object ancient objects, so not.
And what was your master thesis?
My master thesis was a peculiar one because I wanted to put together my background in bookbinding and book conservation as well. And so when I went at the one of the Society of Bookbinders education and training conferences, there was a presentation about tomorrow's past and what tomorrow's past. I know you interview Kathy Abbott, so I think you know John Linsday and Tracy Rowledge and all.
But could you please remind to our
Yes,
listeners what
exactly.
tomorrow's past is? Yeah.
Tomorrow's Past, it's a collective group, and they've written a manifesto about their work. And the idea is to make design binding on ancient book. So the idea is if we work to do new bindings on ancient book, why do we repeat aesthetically something that is not it does not correspond to what is the modern, the contemporary, what today aesthetic. So why do we repeat why do not we create tomorrow's past instead to repeat today's? This was a quote from Edgar Mansfield that they used to create the name. So this is the idea. So to create, not to do in style bindings, but if we work on ancient books and we work today, it needs to have a design that is clearly, if I do a binding in 2026, it needs to be clearly from 2026, but it needs to be sympathetic to the ancient part of the book. So it was something in between design binding, but very sensitive to the conservation ethics. And it was something that gathered together these two parts. So my thesis was investigating what this collective was doing in the bookbinding field, and trying to do my version as a conservator, so translate what they were doing into conservation work for an Italian institution. And we were really lucky because at that time, at the National Library, Central National Library in Rome, there was Marina Battaglini that, when we proposed this idea, was really helpful and was willing to give us two books without binding to do this this kind of treatment on. So I designed two bindings for this book that didn't have none in the past, and I did all the conservation treatment onto these books. And so my thesis was telling the story of tomorrow's past and how I applied my interpretation of their work into my conservation and design binding treatment.
And I also found your Academia Edu page where
Yes.
there is a paper about that, and I posted a link
Yeah.
so that everybody can
Yeah,
see.
it was
So
I think there's
You and Katie Abbott are co-authors.
yeah, exactly, because she was my co-supervisor together with Cristina Balbiano d'Aramengo on the thesis. So yes, I reached out to them and I asked, and they guided me through my process.
And how old were those books that you were the first person to conserve?
I have to. It was 2015, so it was a longer, quite a time, bit of time ago. I think one book was from the 18th century, and
Mhm.
the other one 17th century.
The reason I'm asking because you just mentioned that the requirement was that the books were actual cultural heritage and ancient.
Yeah,
And
exactly,
now, from what I understand, you're working on industrial bindings, which is 19th century plus. So
exactly.
would those have been considered cultural heritage? Could you have done that kind of work on that? And why did you move on from older books to the
So,
newer ones?
the answer is they could be. I mean, to be the definition of cultural heritage in Italy, it's also defined by law. So, is some superintendents from the Ministry of Culture that you can say, I have this book, I think it's important for the cultural heritage of Italy. And they can decide to say, yes, we declare that this particular artifact, this particular book, document, painting, whatever, it has is a testimony of the history, the art, the culture of Italy. So we decide to put it into this, let's say, a list of artifacts that are considered cultural heritage. And in this list, you can also have some more modern artifacts. That's why also you can also have contemporary art into this category sometimes. It's easier to do it if the book or the I talk about book because I mainly work on book and paper conservation, but this applies to all the artifacts that you can find in a museum. So it's paintings, statues, etc. If the artifact belongs to a national institution, so if it is already into an archive, a library, a museum, it's let's say it already is considered cultural Italian cultural heritage. So it would be possible to do this kind of treatment on these books. doing tomorrow's past work on a book from the 20th century. I think it's more difficult because the aesthetic is not so different in a sense. Binding, I mean, it's you have to make a design binding on a book that it's I mean the age difference between the book and the design binding
So
it's
the
a
que-
lot,
so
but
the
it's not so much that some people 30 years from now can clearly see, oh, okay, this is from one era, this is from another. So I think it's trickier, but I think it's possible.
Okay, so why have you moved on from ancient books? Like when you hear, I went into book conservation, like
Mm-hmm.
I imagine, oh yes, I've been dreaming of touching old books. I'm one of the very few people who are allowed. And here you are having that chance and access to wonderful archives and libraries and choosing 19th century books. Why?
I think it's because I have a thing for the underdogs. So I have a thing for the materials that nobody is so interested in. Also, very few people are interested in. So I get it. It's I mean, book conservation. You can have illuminated manuscripts in your hand. They are wonderful, absolutely wonderful, but I find for me emotionally it's there's a lot more in modern bindings in which you can find not the history with major age, but maybe stories from people. I mean, these are books that are historically closer to us, so you can feel maybe a little bit more of connection with them in an emotional way. And also because it was a way for me, again, as it was in Tomorrow's Past, with the thesis on Tomorrow's Past, to put together all my background, not only book conservation, but also the bookbinding part. Because right now we have a university degree for conservation, but we are losing bookbinding schools. So when you do the training for book conservation, not necessarily you do a lot of training on bookbinding. You do on sewing, spine lining, historical structure, but for example, everything that is gilding, leather decoration, everything that is more common on craft bookbinding and design binding is not included in the conservation book conservation training. So it's something, and I have both. So doing the research on industrial bookbinding, or I mean, bookbinding in the industrial era, because as we all know, we still do design binding and craft bookbinding. So it did not disappear with the industrial revolution. So we still have craft work, not only industrial work on bookbindings. And to talk about this period that is not really explored, not so much as the ancient one, was trying to gather together what I have as my in my background, which involves also a training in Ascona in the traditional bookbinding techniques, and also trying to explore what these bookbinding schools were doing. Yeah, so that's the link. Trying to gather, finding something that can put together my background in bookbinding and in book conservation, and it can be in different ways and in different paths, both on research on industrial era books and on working on ancient books, doing design bookbinding on them.
So as I'm back,
I'll come back
I will,
soon.
I will start interrupting our guests as I usually do. It's my main role to interrupt guests and ask additional questions and talk different things about different things. Well, firstly, I'd like to say sorry for all the mess that happened today because it's just I don't know what's happening, and also our son is a bit got some flu or something, so his sleep pattern shifted quite a bit, so that's why I had to skip away. And I have to guess some stuff because I missed like 20 minutes of talking or something, or 15 minutes of talking. But am I right that you chose 19th century books conservation, or
No, we were talking about how I switched from my thesis on tomorrow's past, working on
yeah,
ancient books,
yeah,
to PhD research on bookbinding in the industrial era. And I was saying, is there a link
yeah?
or because they look very
Okay.
different
Then
from one another.
then I'll ask an additional question a bit later. But first, Pasha reminded me that we forgot to do something important, very traditional for our live streams. That we always ask our viewers to join in the discussion and to post their questions in the comments if they have any questions to our guest. And please post them, and we will try to read them and to forward them to Paola at the first opportunity. That's usually how we do. We do not well, we do not interrupt right away, but we usually pass the questions pretty fast. So if you have anything to say or any comments or anything, please post them. But also, it's always a pleasure to see from where people are joining us for this live stream, and if you are willing to disclose your location, your country, your town, city, Hamlet, whatever place you live in. We don't need your exact address, but at least the country would be great because it's always interesting to know the geography of our viewers. And also, as usual, there are links in the descriptions of the video, both on Facebook and YouTube. There are some links to Paola's Instagram account and to Bottega Fagnola Instagram account. And from there, you can go further to the website of Bottega and to all sorts of interesting places and explore more. And I invite you to do that. I would also like to say that I'm not sure if you discussed that already, that we recorded the video with
Yeah.
Paola a few years ago, and unfortunately for different reasons, mainly because of my, stuff that was happening in my life. That video wasn't posted, and I will probably talk with Paolo. Maybe we will post more bits from the workshop tour,
Mhm.
with the disclaimer that the old video. But I hope we will do another a more modern workshop tour as well in the future.
Absolutely.
So that's that's done. I wanted to you mentioned that the uh, industrial era. I at least that's how I understand because that's where when I stormed in and that's what I heard. That industrial era books and bindings are a bit of underdogs in conservation world. Was that right? Or or
Okay.
did I
No,
misinterpret
no,
or
it's
whatever?
yeah, that was the idea that what I started to, why I started to investigate. Is the thing when you open a book about the history of bookbinding, you have usually a lot about from the medieval time to the 18th century. Then
Mhm.
you arrive to the 19th century and say, okay, from the 1830s, it was industrial. And then you
Yeah,
have like 3, 4 pages, and then
yeah,
it's done.
yeah,
So
yeah.
what
Because
we were saying with Pavel is you have a little bit about arts and crafts, and then nothing, and then design
yeah,
bookbinding. So
yeah.
I think there is space to explore, to investigate, and to write about. Also because right now that those books start to be 200 years old, so they start to be ancient as well.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But also because from the point of view of a person who looks into book structures and I don't know, not only book structures but also design. Firstly, 19th century is a great era for all sorts of decorative designs on covers. I mean, industrial designs as well, which never happened before that. And book covers from the 19th century were just amazing. But
Yes.
then also from the conservation standpoint, I think it's a great challenging area because there were a lot of experiments in cheapening the process of book production, which now leads to great conservation issues and
Exactly.
challenges. Like I don't know, all sorts of straw papers and perfect bindings come, which are not perfect in any way. Besides, the low price and all other things as well. And cheap paper is just such a messy problem for everybody, not only for conservators but for
Exactly,
everybody.
but also coated paper. It's
Yeah,
it's a lot of struggle. So yes, there is the material is a lot more challenging, and also what for me was also important is learning onto these bookbinding history books. So there was right now it's a little bit different, but for a long time, people writing about the history of bookbinding were historians, were not people
mm,
that were actually making bindings.
yeah.
I mean, it changed with the Janusz Ziermai and the archaeology of medieval bookbinding, which is still one of the main titles that every bookbinder
But
and every
but
conservator
that's that's
write
that's
about.
also that's also a symbolic of the issues in that area because this is a book from 1980s. It's
Exactly. I
it's
think
it's
I
not a
think the
new.
first edition was 1997. So even from the 90s, but he
Okay,
started
okay,
he started
90s,
working
but
in
but
the
it
80s.
yeah, okay. Maybe it's because he was teaching in 1980s and
Yeah,
the
probably. He
lectures
had
come.
a yeah, he
Yeah,
started publishing
yeah,
articles before. I think the
yeah,
first edition, or at least that I'm aware of, the first edition of the archaeology. So the whole book
yeah.
was from the late 90s. But yeah, it was
Okay,
started
okay,
right
okay.
before. But
And
also,
and
I mean,
and I think there is like one more book since then about archaeology of bookbinding, but it concentrates on very earliest material, like first
yes, there is
centuries of
another
Common
research
Era.
from
Yeah,
Budalis that work on very early codex. I mean, Nicholas Pickwood still he is one of the main researchers on the field, but he concentrated on the ancient books as well instead of
Yeah,
what I'm trying to do, which is the industrial era. So there is another confirmation that there is space to navigate in the industrial era. I mean, Nicholas Pickwood was trained as a bookbinder. Janusz Ziermai also, I think he win at least once or maybe more Paul Bonnet prizes
hmm,
binding. It did exhibition. There are, I
yeah.
think, in the Netherlands or in Belgium some.
I think I have a catalog of his bindings somewhere here
Yeah,
behind me.
yeah, exactly. I mean, he trained as a bookbinder and was able to describe structurally the
Yeah,
bindings so well because he had this training.
yeah.
So for me,
but
another
uh,
thing
but but
was
I'm sorry, but there is a difference. Okay, when we talk about archaeology of bookbinding, especially
yeah,
about the early stuff, it is pure archaeology. You have the material and you need to describe it because there were no manuals, hardly anything was written about it. You are in a somewhat different territory, but
yeah,
uh,
I
I
have.
but I assume there's still not everything was written down.
No, I think not necessarily. But I think the other thing for me important is that we need to have makers that write about the history of their technique, their field. So I think another major thing is having conservators and bookbinder writing, doing research, and publishing about this topic. Because of course, on ancient books, you have maybe Dudang, maybe with the encyclopedia, you have something, some pictures, something written down that can resemble a manual, but you have to look at the object and describe how it was made. But it's important that someone that does this has training not only on the archaeology and history and research aspect, but also on the bookbinding and book conservation aspect of it. If you know how to sew a book, you can describe a sewing in a different way than a historian can do. So I think it's important right now that we can have this, to have also, not only, but also conservators and bookbinders and makers doing research, because it enriches so much the field. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's the main thing, and that's something I see also in other craft research um, mm, fields, for the textile, for example, for embroidery. I see there are some researchers that are doing this kind of research on the history of embroidery, history of textiles, etc., that are also actually seamstresses, or embroiderers, so they actually make what they are studying. I think this is important. This is something that is important to have right now, not to replace, but to add to the other researchers.
This is insane to me that there are like just a handful of people in the world who do the same stuff and try to focus on the same ideology, I think, of research and writing about the book history. But it also sort of connects to something we discussed quite a bit on our previous live stream. The fact that libraries do not consider bindings objects worth uh, describing. So many libraries consider old books good only for the contents they have on the pages. And most often, you don't even have any photographs of the spines of the, sometimes even not the covers really, properly photographed or whatever. And for the old bindings, it's one of the important parts. The this is the object that is valuable not only because of the information contained inside, and that I think that also has to change. At least, hopefully, it will. It in some libraries it changes. There are some places where it gets better, but still, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I can see some changes in it, and that's why the book conservation field emerged, because they started to consider that not only the content, but also the object in itself needed to be preserved.
yeah,
So, but that's but this consideration that the books were, I mean, worth something because of the content in it, and not for the object, that I mean, it was an idea that continued a long time, because we had to arrive to the 20th century basically to have the idea, maybe if it's manuscript, maybe it's if it's ancient and it has an ancient binding, there is some information and historical value on the object itself. So it's not it's quite a recent idea, and that's why the conservation of books and documents evolved later than, for example, paintings and statues and artistic artifacts. And there is a little bit this idea, but still, in the beginning, the idea was, okay, we preserve the more artistic, more rare bindings, and the more common ones, yet they're not really interesting to study. So what Nicholas Pickwood also changed is not only design binding from the past are worth studying, maybe also the regular account book that was made in that way because you needed to add sections. Is worth studying and is telling us something about the society that bind that book. So we need to switch a little bit to not only very decorated, very rare, precious bindings are worthy to be studied, described, put into the catalog, maybe also more ordinary ones. But it will mean also that the library staff needs to be trained on how to describe the bindings as well.
Oh yeah,
So it
yeah.
is something that book conservators can do. So if book conservators are more involved in libraries, you don't really need to look around for people that have the skill to do this kind of description. Just as also I did the Legato Summer School last year, and one of the phrases from Nicholas Puckwood was this. I say some departments, university were asking us, we don't know where to find the people that have the ability to give the description and this technical analysis on binding. I would say just go to the other room in the conservation lab and you will find the people you need. You don't need to call me from another
Exactly.
country.
Yeah, yeah. So it's also a miscommunication issue. But also to your point that it's worse and it's needed to research not only the design bindings of previous ages, but also the day-to-day books. Is the fact that, well, firstly, bookbinding tutorials do not go very far in the centuries. Before the 19th centuries, there are almost none. Like there are like a couple of German or whatever, and almost nothing else. The first in English tutorial was in the 19th century, as far as I remember. And But also there is another issue. Many of the secrets were considered to be passed within the binderies and not to be shared outside in any sort of tutorials. And in the 20th century that really people started sharing stuff. But even then, I know a bookbinder who told me that, and I don't know, my age, so he's an old person, who told me that when he was apprenticing to another bookbinder, that other guy, as he realized later, consciously gave him wrong advice so he wouldn't create a competition to himself, which is insane. But it's so like medieval stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. In Italian, we call it the workshop secret. So you keep
Yeah,
it in the workshop, and maybe you do not even pass it into your own workshop. You say, okay, I die, it will die with him, with me, it's fine. So I know there were maybe there are still people thinking about this way. Uh, Usually,
And
conservation schools train you to think of the conservation field more like a scientific community, with the
yeah,
idea that you share your result, you do conferences, you publish, and there is no secret because you have to write a conservation treatment report, and you have to write down exactly what you did, what products you used. So they try to give a different idea, but there are still people that are still practicing bookbinding and also book repairing and conservation in private practice that still have this idea of keeping a secret what I do, what I use.
yeah,
so would it be possible to match those Italian manuals
Mhm.
of the era to the actual products of those workshops where the people who wrote those manuals worked, and to see the difference? Is it even possible, or can you locate those books and those manuals in the same context.
Well, in here maybe I need to talk a little bit more about the idea of my research. The idea to my research is to study bookbinding made by bookbinding workshop in Italy from the 1830s to the 1970s, more or less. I would probably narrow it down, but let's say for the moment is this. And to cross, since there was, as we were, Stefan also was saying, this was a period in which you had vocational schools and you had manuals written down. So yes, my idea is to try to see what the vocational schools were teaching and what they were writing down as tutorials on the manuals, and see the actual bindings from that era, if they respect if the binding that you can find in the libraries from that era are actually what you can see written down in the tutorials. I for so far I'm at the second year of my PhD, so I still not finished. I haven't had the chance to really cross and say, okay, I know this binder started in that school on that manual, and this is their binding. So I did not have the chance to do this kind of very detailed cross reference right now so far. What I found, which is also quite interesting, is that the bookbinders you find mentioned on on the literature, which are the literature are some magazines from the beginning of 20th century about bibliophiles. They mention some bookbinders that are able to do the rebindings or decorative bindings on their books. These binders usually learned not into vocational schools but in the workshops. So it's exactly the same of what you would think. So there were schools for hand workers meant to publishing houses, printing houses, so to work on the publishing field. If you look at bookbinders that were meant to work for private collectors, so I mean, it should be a more difficult binding to do. There were no schools, but training into the workshops. So it's for the moment it's not easy to cross-reference, but still I need to look more into the manuals that I have gathered to see if I can see if I can do this cross-reference. But it's definitely something interesting to look for.
And have the archives of those vocational schools been preserved or scattered to the wind?
That's many of these schools, since they closed down, they do not have the archive in the school. But, for example, some vocational schools were made from the Salesians priest in Italy. So I will have to go to Rome and to look into the central archive of the Salesian Institute to see if they have something about the school. But already the manual can give us some ideas on what they were teaching. Also, my father was a student into a Salesian school, so I already know from what he told me that, for example, his master, his teacher in bookbinding, was doing design binding and fine bindings as well, but it was something that he was not teaching to the pupils. So he was doing it himself. If you wanted to try,
Paula, I can't hear you.
Yeah,
Stepan, can you?
okay.
Is it just me?
I thought I can hear you, but not Paolo. Yeah.
okay? Do you
Oh,
hear
Yeah,
me?
yeah,
yes,
it's
yes.
back. It's back.
Okay,
It's back.
perfect. It's
Hmm.
back. Okay.
So, so we stopped hearing you when you were talking about the teacher who was doing the design bindings but wasn't teaching it, and
Yeah, exactly. So we know that the teachers in this school were doing design binding as well, but were not teaching it to the students. So in order to learn how to do this, the students will have to, still with their eyes to look what the master was doing and try to catch something, but they didn't have a proper training on design binding, which also I find peculiar because yeah, I think it's a testimony to the idea. I still have to focus a little bit on this, but I see some aspects about the idea that if you do handwork, you belong to, in some people thought in the past that if you do work with your hands, you belong to a class
okay,
and you have to stay in that class.
okay.
So I think there is a little bit of this as well that is reflecting on what I am finding, and also on why there were historians writing about bookbinding, but not bookbinder themselves, because they maybe the bookbinders were not interested. They didn't know that there was the possibility, and also they were not trained enough to write a scientific paper about their field. And why in the libraries, even though they have people that can describe properly an ancient binding, they do not think about going to the next room in the conservation lab, because even though we now have a university degree in conservation, we're still working with our hands. So yeah, I don't know. That's my personal idea, but personally, I think there is a little bit of that still in the air.
Uh,
That's
Know
a
what
very
you think.
interesting idea to contemplate. That's truly interesting perspective. That's for sure.
I think it's not just an idea to contemplate, it's an idea to publish on
Yeah.
sociology of science and of conservation and of relationships within it. It's something that starts to be written about in museum context, as you may know. So it would be interesting to hear to read that too. But it's a very difficult subject to write anything and not to offend people who are still in the field.
Everybody does. Everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I know it's tricky, but talking with other conservators also from other countries, they still have this feeling. So if maybe we talk a little bit, may I ask you, do you maybe feel that you're not considered as another colleague, academic colleague, because you do practical work, and also conservators from other countries that I personally met were saying, yes, I have this feeling. So there is something, it needs to be investigated. I need to, I mean, it's still an idea floating around. It's not really something that I was able to define. I think there is a little something of this in my research. And yes, but probably investigating this aspect will be another PhD research in itself. So for the moment, I just put a pin in it. I know it's there. If I find more, maybe I write about it and include it. But yes, I think is one of the aspects that influences how the discipline has evolved. The conservation has evolved in one way, and bookbinding training has disappeared in the other. So I think it also, there's also this aspect. But yeah, I'm in a phase in my PhD in which I am gathering a lot of pieces, and I still have to put everything together and see how one thing relates to the other. So I'm still in gathering pieces and fragments from different aspects phase of my PhD, which they say is pretty typical. And in
It's
the
all
end,
it's
you figure out how it's all connected. But for the first 2 years, it's just one piece, one piece, one piece. Will they connect? I don't know. Maybe.
but also it sounds like you have ideas and projects for a few decades to
Yeah,
come.
exactly. so, so
But
one of the
this is so
supervisor answers is yes. That would be another PhD. Please don't start on this. Let's put a
this
that
is
and
so
then
cool.
come back after. Yeah.
It's so cool. Um, so it's almost an hour. Probably, do we have something like 30 minutes left? How much time do you have left, Paula? Because we started a bit later, and what's your schedule for today?
I can stay a little bit longer, but Pavel
Yeah,
was saying, and I remember something that you have a quite a collection of bookbinding manuals. So maybe I can show you some of the manuals, bookbinding manuals that I found that I'm working on.
yeah.
We can.
That would be great. And also, I wanted to I don't know if you touched base up on that topic, but maybe to talk a bit, it, just a little bit about the business of bookbinding and about Bottega Fagnola. Just to reintroduce this to our viewers because well we didn't publish the original video, so
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I introduced myself and my career and how I started in bookbinding, but yeah, I didn't mention a little bit more Bottega Fagnola. Bottega Fagnola, it's our workshop, it's family owned, so right now it's me and my father and 8 people working with us.
Hmm.
Two in the book conservation, book and paper conservation department. One is in the showroom because we have the workshop, and then we have the showroom, which is more in the historical center of Torino. And and the other people are more in the conservation and box making, not conservation, sorry, in the bookbinding and box making department. And we do library binding, rebinding for collectors, and archival boxes, menu holder for restaurants, and this kind of work and box making and bookbinding. And yes, my father as well did some design binding as well, and his history is also quite nice because, as I was saying, he trained in the Salesian schools, and then afterwards, this bookbinding in Torino, there was the widower, which was more the commercial part of the bookbinding, that needed someone to replace the husband that passed away. And that was the trained in bookbinding. So from the Salesian schools, they give my father name. So he started as an apprentice and then did the whole career. He became partner with Signora Rocchietti. And then when she, in 1981, and then in 2002, when she decided to retire, he became the only owner of the activity, the workshop. And he changed the name from Legatoria Rocchietti to Bottega Fagnola. And he started in design binding because one customer once asked to talk directly to the bookbinder that did the rebinding he commissioned. And so, in this way, my father met Francesco Malaguzzi, which was a bookbinding, a bibliophile and a bookbinding historian. And Francesco Malaguzzi said to him, I think you have talent. Have you ever tried doing design binding? He said, no. Well, I have an exhibition incoming. Please do something from this exhibition. He did, and in this exhibition were from all private collection from Piedmont, which was huge because, I mean, Francesco Malaguzzi was able to convince other private collectors to show their private collections in an exhibition. It's quite huge to do this. And another this collector was Federico Cerruti, and now we have
Mhm.
a museum of his collection. And said, I like your bindings, and I want you to become my private bookbinder. So I will fund you a training in the Centro del Libro of Ascona, so you
Mhm.
can learn design binding and do design bindings for me. And that's how my father started with design binding, because someone discovered him and someone funded his training in design binding. It was in 1992, more or less.
That's a cool story.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. And
And and
in
and your
Ascom,
your family business is in the very center in Torino. I'm looking at the map. You're like a stone throws away from Palazzo Madama, Palazzo
yes,
Royale,
it is.
museums, Duomo.
Yes, the showroom is still there, and yes, the binding was there in the historical center. And in 2010, we had to move, and now the workshop is a little not in the historical center, but still close enough. Still close enough, but it's I mean it's more manageable to reach, for logistic and suppliers than is to bring us all the
Yeah.
materials in the historical center with all these tiny streets. The suppliers with their van were struggling a little bit. So right now it's a little bit better. But yes, it was born in the historical center of Torino.
Do
So
do you accept apprentices or interns in your workshop?
well, I actually have an Erasmus student from Estonia that is starting a period, I think next week. I have to check
Okay.
the calendar, but and yes, we have from conservation school, they ask us, since they have to do mandatory internship periods, they usually ask us from conservation schools if we take intern and when we can, we take them. And also right now there are some programs in Italy, some foundation that give bursaries for a 6 month training period, apprenticeship,
Yeah.
uh, to young people that apply for this kind of bursary.
Mhm.
So through these programs, we usually take in apprentices that are funded from this foundation. It's not, we do not.
You're actually far ahead of most of Europe and most of the world because apprenticeships have basically died out. England and Scotland are fighting to provide something like that. Uh,
Yeah.
that and are there other binderies that take apprentices through this program? Where can we read about it? Because this is fascinating. We really like to promote
Okay.
professional
Yeah,
education.
I think, well, there was a program that was from Piedmont region, funded from Piedmont region, and it was for crafts in general. So not only book binderies, but also woodworkers and other kind of crafts can apply. And right now, this program from Regione Piemonte is no longer running, but I know that Tuscany has one as well. And the one that we applied to were from two foundations in our area. I can maybe I can write now the name of the foundation in the chat right now. One is called Fondazione Cecilia Gilardi. and the other one is called Fondazione Cologni per i mestieri.
Dei mestieri d'arte, yeah.
Esatto,
Yeah.
esatto.
Mhm,
It's that
mhm.
one. And these are two foundations that promote this kind of 6-month program. So there are some young people or students that just had their degree that can apply and say, I would like to propose a 6-month period in this workshop, and our project is to work on this subject. And then there is a selection, and these students are usually groups or of I don't know, 30 people each year that can access this. It depends on the funds that this foundation can gather. And then yes, it's the foundation that can pay them, give them the bursary for this 6 months. And what they ask the workshop is, are you willing to give your time and your training to this apprentice for free? So in this there is in this manner you can have a little bit of an exchange. I mean, the workshop, the tutor gives his time and his knowledge for free, but you have something that can lend a hand and help out, because in 6 months you have time to learn something and be actually useful. Because that's the other thing. When you start in our field and when you start in bookbinding or in book conservation, uh, mm, you have to um, you have to take into consideration that there will be an initial period in which you are not use, useful. You are training, you are learning, you're making mistake and learning from them, but your work will not be useful for the company you're in for the first period.
Yeah, yeah,
So
definitely.
these projects with this foundation help. So the person has a bursary and can have something, can be paid something, not much, but something to learn. And the company, which we are talking to very small companies. I mean, we are for our field quite big because we are 8 people, but still we are from an economical point of view what they called a micro company. So having someone that stop doing production work to train someone else, for us is a huge investment. So
Perhaps you, thank you. You've mentioned an interesting thing. You are a big company for the field.
yes.
How how are you doing that? Because we've been talking to many people, and one of our favorite question is, when are you going to get an apprentice? And everybody starts like, well, it's financially very difficult, even to get enough job for yourself and for an apprentice, or even for a second professional in the business. And you have 8 people. How are you doing that? What's your secret?
It's
Sorry to interrupt. I have to leave once again because the baby woke up and I need to lull him to sleep again. Sorry about that. Pasha, I'm sure you will be able to do the last part of this talk perfectly. And Paola, I'm sorry I'm missing the tutorials, but I'll watch the recording a bit later. I'll try to come back before you finish, but I'm not sure I'll be able to do that.
it's okay.
Uh,
I will contact you on your collection, so we can talk
yeah,
in private about manuals a little
yeah,
longer,
yeah.
whenever you want.
Yeah, thank you very much for doing this talk with us today. You still continue to discuss a few things. It's just I'm leaving, unfortunately.
Okay.
I'll try to get back in time, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Uh, yeah,
Not a
yeah.
problem.
Pasha, sorry about that, but thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what's about your business secrets?
Okay, so we struggle. It's difficult. I think it has to do with a lot of things. Also, timing. I mean, my father was able to expand in the 1980s, which was a period in which there was a lot of work. So we were able to we were able to grow in that moment. And then when the recession arrived, we had to keep something that was already there. So I think in some way it's just luck. We were lucky to be able to build in a period in which it was possible to build and enlarge, and then maintaining it afterwards was different than trying to enlarge in a period in which was impossible to enlarge. So I think
And you've been at roughly the same size of workforce for a while.
more or less, I think in the last 15 years, more or less, we have been this number. In the 90s, we were more. I think we arrived. I have to check, but I think we arrived to be nearly 15. So we are less people right now. I'm not planning to enlarge because we will not be able to do so. What we can consider is when there will be people retiring, we can consider if we want to replace them or just stay as we are. But we are right now quite big. So what I may personally able to predict is to try and keep what we have. I don't see in the next 5 years or 10, maybe in 10 years, I don't know, but not in the next 5 years. We will not be able to.
Not in the current economy.
No, not in this current economy, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the reason. And yeah, also my father is he's still working. So as a daughter, I'll say some days it's just a nightmare to work with for me personally, but he was able to build something solid. And yes, I only have to maintain what he builds. But yeah, I think we did. The secret was just being lucky with timing.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Keep up the good
Absolutely.
job. So maybe we can get back to the manuals.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just I will add just one more thing. I think another thing that help us is being active in different fields, because there are some periods in which we have more work from box making and less from bookbinding. But then we can balance when we have some more work on one field and more earning on that field. We can redistribute it on the other fields. So
And
this helps a lot.
and your colleagues, your employees, they have a range of skills, and they can so you can transfer them from one stream to another.
From bookbinding and box making, yes, very easily.
Hmm.
Conservation is a little more tricky, but usually there was a big work that we did last year was on architectural drawings, which was big in numbers because we had a lot of it, and also they were huge. So we needed more hands to work on that. And so it was this was a work in which I presented it to the last icon book and paper group conference last year. And this was a work in which people from the box making and bookbinding department actually helped us in a conservation treatment. So they already had the manual skill required on, and they were also already used to work with paper. So we taught them some of the easier part of the work, how to handle things, dry cleaning, many repairs like this. So they helped us. So yeah, I do not, I say there are some skills that are interchangeable between the people in the staff.
Which is also why in-house training eventually pays off, always.
Exactly, exactly. That's why I am involved in with conservation school, and why I participate in this kind of apprenticeship programs. Actually, three people out of eight that we have employed right now are not employed with us, and they started with this kind of apprenticeship. So it was a way for us to know them, it was a way for them to know us and started learning. And then, of course, it was again timing. They were there, we met them in the time that we needed to replace someone. And so we asked them, since you just finished this apprenticeship, do you want to stay? And they said yes. But it worked us for us in this manner. So yeah, this it helps to train, because when you need them, they are already trained.
Train your own workforce. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
And also give back to the community. So it's
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Also. So I think I will show you this manual in particular, because I think it's one of the first. It's one of the. It's one of the things that inspired me for my PhD research. So this one you can see written in pencil,
Mm-hmm.
Legatoria Rocchietti. So this one is the name of the bookbindery before my father. So I think this manual belonged to Mario Rocchietti, so the previous bookbinder before my father. And I don't have the date, but I think this second edition should be
Mm-hmm.
from La rilegatura del libro. It should be from the 1940s, and we have two manuals together, and it's very nice because it did a kind of fine binding on it. I think about it itself. So we have a little bit of inlays in leather on it,
Really well made. Yeah,
really
yeah.
well made. And also on the edges, it's a little bit torn, but you can see he also hand painted all the tools.
Not what you expect from a binding to trade manual,
Yeah,
effectively.
exactly. I think it's was he just made it from himself, and he made it
Mm-hmm.
in a very artistic way. I think this is a brass palette, and then you have a type holder, and then a compass.
Oh,
And
those are. Oh, could you show me? Those are tools. Yes.
yeah, I think there are
Ye-
tools. It's very
I think you're right. I
very
think you're right.
faded. It's quite faded, but you have all the tools, and I think he hand painted them himself. And here you have a brush and an agate burnisher. So yeah, it's really nice. Just how it was made. With
It's well made and it's also fun. You can see it
exactly.
going.
Exactly, exactly. And it's also fun to look at. And yes, inside you have all the instructions to do all the kind of bindings. You can find case bindings and so on, but also some training about the machines. This is the sewing machine he is showing. And then afterwards, there is a whole part about gold tooling, so all the instruction on the spine, how to divide the spine, how to prepare the book covered, and all the instructions with the numbers of the tools if you want to do the binding. So it's really and it's a way to see how they were they were they were this was written by Guido Luigi Colombini. This is the name.
Do we know who he was?
Yes, he was a Salesian master, and he studied as in the Salesian school, and then became a
And just to make sure I understand correctly, Salesian school is sort of vocational school run by Catholic order?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Hmm.
It's a vocational school run by Salesian priest, which is a Catholic order.
Hmm.
And yes, it was one of the main. So some two, at least two vocational schools were run by two different Catholic priest orders in Italy, and the main one was the Salesians one, and the writers that we know that wrote manual were two or three of them were from the Salesian schools. So this one, Guido Luigi Colombini, was from these schools, and from what I found out so far, he started as as a pupil in that school, and then afterwards he became a master, and then he wrote down some of the manuals. And this I found is the case also in the other vocational school called Artigianelli, which is from another order, and this what I found so far. But this one, I think, yeah, it was just so nice, but for how Mario Rocchietti decided to bind it, and it was his own. And in some, I think there was, I cannot find the page, but there were some of his hand notes on the book itself. Oh, here you can see, you can
Hmm.
still see in pencil some he was actually studying on this book, so and you can find his marks on it, so it was
So,
really
so
nice.
if you look at enough of those books, theoretically, you could do something like a reception history to see what actual bookbinders thought of it, what they found interesting.
Yeah, if I find enough manuals with enough annotation on it, I can do this kind of work, and
But that sounds as yet another PhD.
yeah, exactly. That's in the folder ideas for research after the PhD if I want to continue. But yes, and what I found also very interesting. That's another one I found from the other school. It's called Tecnologia
Hmm.
Poligrafica, and as you can say, it's very torn apart because I tried to buy it the cheapest edition I can find. Of course, the more it's ruined, the less it costs on the antiquarian market. And of course, as well as they say, the cobbler always have torn shoes. The bookbinder always, the book conservator always has ruined books that it never restore from himself. This one you see here, Scuole
Hmm.
Artigianelli, and it's from the 60s. So it's the other order. You see here, he's the priest founder of these kind of schools. And what I found interesting is that on the first part of this manual, you have all the historical part. This one is about the papyrus, the parchment, the paper. So in these schools, they wanted their students not only to have the training on the technique they were going to apply on the job, but also on the history of the field. Even though it's a vocational school made for handy workers, still they thought it was important for them to know the history of their field, which I found.
What do you think the rationale was behind that? Because did they want to elevate the craft, or why did they think it was important?
That's the answer. I don't know yet. I think it was. I think they thought it made them a bit a better hand worker, knowing where you're coming from, can give you also some answers on why some things are the way they are. So I think the rationale behind it was this, but I think it also suggests that the teacher or people that were writing this manual also had this view that it was important to know the historical part before doing to the practical stuff. So there was this what was then what you can see right now also in conservation school, this idea that you need a theoretical frame also for a practical job, and it's important to have this theoretical frame also for the practical job. But yeah, I think I have to look more, but what I found so far suggests that there were different schools for people that were so you can have different degrees, diplomas, if you want to be a simple handy worker or if you want to become chief. It was a separate class, then the separate diploma from that. So we still have this, probably for the classes made meant for the chiefs had more theoretical and management things, but you still have these that are very separated.
Yeah, and also the chiefs also probably had to talk to more important people. So bridging the class divide, at least in terms of what they could talk about, was important.
Exactly. So
Because
language,
probably, yeah,
so the language skills, the language, how you could use the language properly was important as well. Yes.
it's fascinating. I can see parallels with so many other crafts. I recently watched a few documentaries and read a few articles about making picture frames,
Mm-hmm.
because that is an ancient craft,
Yeah.
not as ancient as bookbinding, but also pretty old. And until very recently, almost nothing was known about its history, almost no theoretical framework to study, and now people are building from ground up their own history. They're finding personalities, and also much of this craft was a female craft, and until very recently. Those kind of crafts were not particularly interesting to researchers from universities. And
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
so this is fascinating, actually.
Exactly. What I also found, I need to explore more, but what I also found is that these you were talking about. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Ari.
Yeah. You were talking about female work and male work. Of course, these vocational schools started at the late 19th century, so school was still separated. There was female classes and male classes. For vocational schools in bookbinding, vocational schools for women and for men were completely different. So you these manual I showed you were from vocational schools meant for men only, because not because the Salesians or the other Catholic order didn't have female schools, but because the female schools were for seamstresses, work on knitting, working on textiles, working on no, I don't know how to translate it in English right now. We call it in Italian domestic economy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
That's
think domestic economy or house economy.
house
That's
house
economy.
the
That's
idea.
economy.
yeah,
House economy, exactly. House economy or something agricultural. So vocational school were there for women, but women were meant to learn jobs only involving textile or involving house management or involving agricultural work. So we're not
we actually
trained in
talk.
bookbinding.
Yeah, we actually talked to a researcher, Stepan, I'm blanking on the name, who researched female bookbinders, and one of the difficulties with that is that they were all trained not in any kind of school. There were no schools. They trained on the job, usually in the family. They were, uh,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, because you can see from the Italian statistics from that time, you can see that in the bookbinding field there were female employees, but the schools were not meant for women, so they had to train in other way, or you can see they were doing something. Let's say sewing adjacent, so they were doing the sewing, the handbands, so only specific thing that were maybe similar to what they were taught in another school or at home, but not bookbinding itself, so they were not doing the cover, doing cover decoration, etc. It seems so. So I need to investigate more, but what appears is this, that the also in Italy, the schools that were there were not meant for women, except one that I found that was in Turin in my city, and this is something I found last week. So I found something, but it's really preliminary. I need to search more on this. But it appears that at least there was a project for a vocational school in Torino meant for military's daughters. So that was the idea. So for orphan of war or for daughters that have their father involved in the military service, etc. And that school was something very progressive, and the idea of the project was to have this vocational school for women also on some kind of jobs. And I found one of the voices was stationary work, so it was meant to do some kind of case bindings, box making as well, but it's the only one that I found, and I was really emotional because this institute does not exist anymore. The building does, and that's where I went in high school.
Okay.
so, so when I found out the name
Full
of the
circle.
institute, yeah, it all circled back. I mean, it was meant to be. So it was really, it was really exciting discover for me.
Okay. To answer Pasha's question about our other guest with whom we discussed bindings made by women, it was Sophie Schneiderman. She makes catalogs and she researches book bindings, and also she made a catalog specifically about bindings made by women. And the video, if anyone is interested to look at it, it's a selection of bindings made by women on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it. It was a very insightful video and a very interesting talk. And of course, we got comments like, why would you specify the bindings only by women? Why do we need to talk about this? And I was like, well, just get off this, YouTube channel. Find some other place to complain about.
Yes, there's always one comment like this.
Yeah. So, yeah, okay. I need to walk a bit more, but Pasha, please continue.
Okay.
And actually, I think we've had enough of Paolo's time. It was so nice. Thank you so much for joining us. Good luck with all those multiple lines of research. Good luck in finding your narrative, because thesis is about narrative, and you have so many ideas. I'm absolutely sure you'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you
and
very
and
much.
I really hope we'll talk in the near future to you, not only about the workshop, about the studio, about Bottega Fagnola, but also about your research, because it's really exciting to learn more about it.
Yes, yes.
When
I mean, it will be, as all PhD thesis, it will be public, but it will be open access. What I write down, so I will tell you when I have something published in English. And yes, thank you so much for having me back another time. It was really fun to talk. And maybe next time will be for an updated workshop tour.
yeah, yeah, that would be great. We'll stay for a bit longer here while the stream stops on both platforms, and then that's it for today. We have some other ideas about other guests who will come in the near future, but no strict schedule yet. I hope I will update everyone a bit later. So let me end the stream. Pasha will talk a bit more. That's it. Ari wants
It's
to
this
wake up.
the third member of Chizhov family to have appeared
Yeah,
on our podcast.
yeah.
Our favorite co-host yet.